Welcome to the WrestleCord news break for April 23rd, 2026. Last night we had Dynamite. Some big news coming out of that. We had Will Ospreay taking a shocking loss to Don Callis' family's Mark Davis in what ended up being a referee stoppage. So I guess we could call that a technical submission here. Will Ospreay taking a lot of damage to his neck, and after getting a pendulum pile driver and then a second pendulum pile driver, this time on the apron, he was unable to return to the ring. The doctor called it off, causing the ref to call it off. Then after that, Mark Davis, not being finished, wanted to exact a little more punishment on Will Ospreay, would drag him back into the ring, pick him up once again for another pendulum pile driver. Before he could execute, we had Marina Shafir showing up on the apron. Pretty interesting choice. You would expect maybe Alex Windsor or somebody. But instead we had Marina Shafir, which stopped Mark Davis dead in his tracks. Then we had Jon Moxley and the rest of the Death Riders descending on the ring. Mark Davis from there actually would put Will Ospreay down and then head for the hills. And it was the Death Riders who would then carry Will Ospreay out of the arena. So not sure exactly what AEW has set up there for this storyline. I think it's interesting, wondering if maybe we're going to get a Will Ospreay maybe being turned to the Death Rider side, or maybe we're not going to see Will Ospreay for a while. Maybe he's going to disappear at the hands of the Death Riders. Also coming out of that show, we had a super fun bout with the newly minted Blackheart, Lio Rush, taking on Brody King in what was a very entertaining bout. Brody King coming out on top and then telling the world that he is going to be looking on intently at the AEW World Title match that was happening later that night between the newly crowned champion last week, Darby Allin, and Tommaso Ciampa. We also had on this show the return of Samoa Joe in action against a local talent he would quickly defeat. And then on his way to the back, he would actually be greeted by Hook, who has been, since Samoa Joe has been out of action, the de facto leader of the Ops. So I'm wondering if there might be some tension there between those two as to who will be the leader, or if Samoa Joe will take back over, or if he will simply leave Hook in charge. Only time will tell. And then also back to that main event, we have Darby Allin defending the world title against Tommaso Ciampa. This match started off with actually MJF coming out and demanding that he get a rematch against Darby Allin, who refused, said that MJF was going to have to put something on the line, just as Darby Allin will be putting his body on the line every week. Then we had Tommaso Ciampa coming out to the ring for this bout, and sort of got stopped by MJF on the ramp, where then he kissed MJF on the cheek. Very mafioso reference there. And in the end of what was a pretty hard-fought wild bout, which involved a air raid crash from the middle rope onto the floor, it would be Darby Allin using the Scorpion Deathlock to force Tommaso Ciampa to tap out. So a really fun Dynamite we had last night. If you want to hear any more in-depth coverage we have of that, please check out the latest episode of the WrestleCord podcast up right now on Spotify, Apple Music, and also youtube.com/WrestleCord. Now, let's talk a little bit more about what's going to happen tonight. Thursday, we have TNA Impact airing at 9 p.m. on AMC. It will be headlined by TNA World Champion Mike Santana taking on Rich Swann, a Baltimore native like myself. We also have Matt Hardy taking on Dutch of the Righteous, and then Nick Nemeth taking on the System's Bear Bronson. And also we will hear from Xia Brookside. So it looks to be an interesting card for tonight's TNA. Let's talk a little bit about some rumors that developed earlier this week around Tuesday. It seemed that AEW and Pro Wrestling Tees had parted ways. It turns out that may not be the case, as we had the owner of PWTs releasing a statement, Ryan Barkin, where he said, "The person who made the Reddit post circulating his own knowledge of our business. Nothing on that post is true except that we unfortunately told some of our contracted designers that we would not need them for as many AEW designs anymore. Some of the AEW designers are still contracted. Nothing has changed otherwise, and we are still fulfilling merchandise for AEW. So it looks like that relationship with Pro Wrestling Tees and AEW is still ongoing. Maybe Pro Wrestling Tees scaling back apparently a bit on their AEW merchandise. Speaking of merchandise, I just wanted to talk a little side note about something that I've been noticing as a wrestling fan. Jazwares, which has been developing AEW action figures since their first action figures, I think does an excellent job of it. It was reported a few months back that they were breaking ties with AEW. Jazwares would come out and say that they were not. They were still making AEW figures, but it only looked like we got at most a guarantee of throughout the rest of 2026, which leaves the door open to see as to what's happening going forward. But I will say, as a wrestling fan, my own personal experiences, Targets and Walmarts used to constantly be inundated with AEW figures. I was always going there trying to find the newest ones. And as of late, actually as of several months now, I've been completely unable to find any Jazzware at Target. That started coming to a close right around last year at Christmas. And any ones that I do find now at Walmart all seem to be discounted to go, and I haven't seen any new inventory coming in. I do think it's really interesting with Target, because if you go to the Target website, you can see that they are still carrying Jazwares toys, including action figures, just none of them that are AEW branded. So, not sure exactly what the relationship there is between Jazzware, AEW, and Target and Walmart. If you folks know of any other big box retail stores or anywhere else that you are finding these AEW figures that maybe you are no longer finding, or you are still seeing new products coming up, please let us know, because I'd love to hear more about this. Also, let me just touch real quick on a story that I started breaking earlier this week, and that is about Saraya Paige, who just returned to WWE at WrestleMania 42. Her life story being turned into a stage musical, so like a Broadway type musical. Some more information we have about that. It looks like the producer of her film about her life, Fighting With My Family, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, will also be a producer on this, as well as the writer-director of that film, Stephen Merchant, also being a producer on this project. It will be developed by Tilted Musicals, and it looks like it's going to be penned by British playwright John Britton, while the musical numbers are going to be done by English songwriters Nick Kohler and Miranda Cooper. And it looks like they are hoping to open their first performances in 2027. So interesting to see what's going to happen there. And then just one last note, as we will have AAA airing on YouTube tonight with their show that's going to feature Psycho Clown versus former WWE Tag Team Champion Ivar. And also, we're going to see the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championship up for grabs with Mr. Iguana tagging with Lola Vice to take on La Hydra and Dynamico. And then also, we're going to get a triple threat match with Lindsay Dorado, Aerostar, and Joaquin Wilde. So, that's pretty much the end of our news break here. I implore everyone to check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WrestleCord. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again tomorrow.